Hello friends, so today's video is going to be kind of a chit chat about some trends that I have noticed in fantasy books, specifically for titles and covers. Trends often come in and out. Sometimes we get old trends that come back, sometimes we get brand new things that seem original at first, and then everything seems to be following that same thing. And trends can be exciting, they can say something about the time in which they are coming out and that they exist within. But in general, I almost feel like you don't notice something as a trend until after that trend is over, and then you see it. And you kind of go back and you're like, oh, that was terrible, or oh, I kind of missed that. And I'm curious if some of the things that I'm going to be talking about are going to fit in the I actually love that trend, I want more of it, or if they fit in the I'm kind of tired of it, please go away now. Part of what's allowed me to see these trends is my glasses, and a big thanks to GlassesUSA.com for working with me on today's video. No surprise, the pair that I'm wearing is the pair that I'm pretty much always wearing because they are the ultimate neutral. That would be my clear pair. I absolutely love this pair of glasses. I love the shape, love the size, and I love the sturdiness of them. I think you can wear it with something nice, and I think you can wear it with something casual. It just is the ultimate goes with everything pair. You can also get blue light blocking glasses, prescription sunglasses, and GlassesUSA.com makes it more affordable by taking the middleman out of the equation. So I absolutely love working with them. Thank you so much to them for continuing to work with me, but now back onto the trends. Let's start with the obvious one, and we'll branch away from that because this is the one that everybody already knows exists and I just have to get it out of the way, and that would be the a blank of blank and blank. We have seen this so many times at this point. A court of thorns and roses. A song of wraiths and ruin. A shadow of what was lost. And honestly, you know, it's a mouthful. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to long titles. Sometimes long titles are kind of fun, and I think sometimes the length of the title says something about the book. Sometimes titles that are exceptionally long are kind of funny. Other times it maybe is hinting at something. I think A Court of Thorns and Roses is one of the probably original books with this sort of title, and the fact that they all are a court of something and something I think is very fitting for that particular Fae inspired setting. And I want to add that for some of these other titles, there's this misconception that authors are in charge of basically everything that their books have going on. And that's not true. When it comes to titles, sometimes authors don't even get to decide the titles of their own books. And I've seen people make fun of these sorts of titles, and they tend to direct their jesting towards the authors themselves. And I think that is a little unfair. There's this idea that the author is just trying to copy this various different trend that they see. So I just want to throw that out there. Sometimes the authors don't have a say in this. Sometimes they do, and maybe they just like that particular trend. But part of what I find so interesting about this trend is that's a very distinct pattern. A blank of blank and blank. It's long, it's a lot, and it's very kind of specific. So to have seen it turn into a trend, I think is really fascinating. And while I said that I thought A Court of Thorns and Roses was the main one, let me know if there's some other ones that you think, no, actually, I think this was the origin of this trend. And I would love to see some more examples. A new trend that I've only seen a couple of books do, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of it. And as I keep track of anticipated releases, I'm going to start to see if maybe it'd be fun to do a follow-up video and see how many of these continue and how many of these we don't see anymore. Maybe I'll do one at the end of the year. Let me know if that would be kind of fun. But either way, getting to this trend, it doesn't matter the gender, but the two I'm going to mention both happen to be she, who, something, something, something. And the amount of words that come after are not necessarily that relevant. It's just the fact that she who that starts. So she who became the sun, she who rides the storm. It's kind of an interesting, I think it's an interesting title. It's interesting because I don't see that way of identifying the character and something they're associated with, their action, within a title. I just don't really see that very often. You sometimes see something like the whatever noun, the carpenter's son, or the judge's wife. Like, you'll see sometimes this kind of a person and then someone associated with them. And that's a trend, right? We've seen that for years.
Editing L here. While I was editing, I was curious if either of the titles that I mentioned were actual real titles, because I was 100% just talking out of my butt when I made up these titles. And the carpenter's son makes sense because of Jesus, so I kind of figured that that would actually be a real title, but I did not think the judge's wife would be, and evidently it is for multiple books.
But having she who, or he, doesn't matter, like I said, having she who does something, I kind of like it. And I don't mind if we get more. I just think that because it's more distinct, I'm going to start getting them all mixed up if it becomes too popular. The next trend has to do with imagery on the cover, and it's just something I've noticed in talking about books this last year. Whenever I would do an end of the quarter video or I would do a wrap up, I would find myself being like, oh, here's another one that has that in the title or has this on the cover, and that would be wolves. So I think I've said before, I love covers that have birds. I don't know what it is, but a bird on the cover is always going to get my attention. But we seem to be getting a lot into wolves, either in the title or in the cover. So an example of one that is coming out this year where it's on the cover would be The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the sequel to Shadow of the Gods. You have a big wolf on the cover, and it looks awesome, and it has to do with the folklore and the history and the religion, that sort of thing within the story. So it's fitting. It's not just a wolf randomly, but you do have a wolf being very prominent on the cover. And then you have the book titled The Wolf and the Woodsman, so you've got it on the cover there. You have a book called For the Wolf. So those were the two specifically that I'm like, man, two wolf books coming out around the same time. There is literally a book called The Wolf. That one's not as new as the other ones I've mentioned, but it is a newer book. And it just seems like wolves are becoming the new bird of covers. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to be keeping my eyes peeled to see if we see more wolves on future covers and in titles. Oh, The Wolf of Oranyaru. That's another one. Next up would be a word within a lot of titles, and that would be sky. This one makes sense, especially for sci-fi stories, or maybe even thematically. I think the sky often you see in things about people breaking out of a mold, or they're trying to literally attain flight in some fashion. It can be metaphorical. Regardless, sky, I understand why it's in a lot, but it's in a lot now. So we have Sky Hunter. That's a Marie Lu story. We have The Sky Beyond the Storm by Saba Tahir. We have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. It's actually another Skyward that is not related to this particular Skyward story. But every time that I would go to type in Skyward, if I needed the cover image, it would bring up that other one as well. But Sky is another one that I'm going to be looking to see titles of books coming out and if they have it. The next one has to do with either the name of an entire series or the name of a book. So still title centered, and that would be Age of. So you see Age of Assassins, Age of Madness. Age of Ash is another one. This is a brand new release that is coming out. Age of Myth. Once again, this one makes sense. Especially makes sense in more epic fantasy because it's kind of this, I mean, it's a way to mark an entire era, the age of something. And I really actually like this one. I'm a big fan of it. I like it especially for series names. I think that's where it really gets me. I could also see this being something you use for the name of every book within a series. So I was mentioning Shadow of the Gods before. You know how that one goes Shadow of the Gods and then Hunger of the Gods. So you're looking at something of the gods each time. I could see Age of and then fill in the blank being the title for various different books within a series. But I like it. However, I can see it becoming overused. I can see it turning into what is basically the word queen or king on the names of books, right? It's something that if we overdo it, it starts to become generic and then it loses some of its appeal, I think. But as of right now, I'm definitely a big fan. Let me know if you've also noticed any of these trends. The A Blank of Blank and Blank, I know that basically everybody has seen that one. But as far as the other ones go, do you think that this is going to turn into the next thing that you see with titles all the time, or the next kind of symbolic thing that you see on covers? Do you think, no, not so much? Those are probably just the only ones, the ones you mentioned. But either way, I also want to know what trends you've been noticing, or what are some that you think are going to become a bigger deal within the next couple of years. I would love to know. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. A big thank you again to glassesusa.com for working with me. I'll have them linked down below. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.